I love how you have a California cup you're drinking out of. That just almost seems like one of those ones like, I need to bring a little bit of home with me.
Where's he from? Yeah, no, it's literally, it was actually a gift we got for somebody, but then like we forgot to give it to them, and then they moved away, and we're like, oh, well, I guess we have this now. So here it is, and plus I just needed a cup big enough that it wasn't going to be out like in like 5 minutes into the show.
Yeah, exactly. But I like that, though. I like the California flag because not a lot of people have California pride anymore, and I feel like it's one of those ones that's like, it's good to keep it up.
Like, where does this show take place? Well, actually, not on this side of the screen. That side of the screen. This side of the screen, it's California. This is just a little slice of home. So.
Yeah, I always thought if I had like a squat rack that I put in the house, and everybody's, you hang a flag behind it, most of the time it's, people go American flag or something like that. I think I'd throw a California flag up there. I mean, I've always said I wanted to throw the Soviet flag so I could feel like Dolph Lundgren in Rocky IV, but that might be an interesting conversation thing that you have to explain every single time someone comes over why you have it like that. Like, well, I want to feel like Drago, and, when he's training and everything like that, yeah, that's like, So what, you don't want to feel like Rocky? Well, no, it's just, I like Dolph.
What could I say, yeah.
Don't you feel bad for him in Creed 2? It's like everything went to shit because he lost that battle. It makes you feel like, here's the thing. If Rocky would have lost, he would have just went home and went, yeah, whatever, I got a robot. Hey, Adrian, what are we doing next week? But no. Dolph goes home and is like, you have disgraced Russia. Now you will work in the coal mines till you...
To the gulags.
Yeah, exactly. It's, there's not a lot of consequences for Rocky losing. It's just more just like, hey, dude, you let America down. Yeah, whatever.
Not saying I don't trust your opinion. I just, after Creed 2 came out, I heard like not a whole lot of talk about it. So like, I want to see it, but I just like, oh, that came out, I forgot to check it out. And then like, you like, oh, right, you're the one that talks about it a lot. So I'm like, oh, I got to go around and check this out. But then everyone was talking about 3, because how 3 is like modeled after, all the fights are modeled after Dragon Ball Z fights, basically. So yeah, like, oh, that's pretty badass. I gotta check 2 and 3. I love 1.
No, they're really good. The only bummer to 3 is there's no Rocky in it, so it's like not even a cameo, which kind of sucks. But
not a
whatever. Not even a cameo. Yeah, it's not even like that. At least he doesn't die. I mean, I guess that's because that's like sometimes the only thing about Rockies is like they got to that point where like somebody's got to die every movie.
That was the thing. Even like when you see Creed, he's like, I got kids, so what you gonna do about it, kid? Mom, my time's running out. It's your time. Like, oh, fuck, and it's gonna happen. But it just, you think about every movie where he's won, he's like, his face is all fucked up, just all like, and then you see him like just like some old beat up piece of meat in a locker room being like, hey, man, I'm gonna fucking die. What about it?
My favorite part, too, is how long Paulie lasted, too. It's like, I really feel like Rocky's always that thing like he took care of Paulie, but it's not like he really wanted to. He was just, I was just doing it for Adrian. I'm just saying, it was up to me. That bum would be on the street.
Other than Creed 2 and 3, Rocky 6, which I think is just Rocky Balboa, that's the only one I haven't seen. That's the one I have not seen. I've seen all the other ones. I don't remember 2 and 3 that well. But everyone loves 4. Everyone knows 4.
Yeah, well, 3 and 4 are my 2 favorite ones. I mean, 3's got Hulk Hogan and Mr. T in it, so you got a lot going on there.
I remember the big part of it. Like number 1 is the first one. Number 2 is it's his comeback and he beats Creed. Number 3 is he goes against Hulk Hogan and Mr. T.
Clubber Lang.
Yeah. And then the 4 is, of course, the 4th one. The 5th one is where he's the trainer, and then the guy he's training screws him over.
Yeah,
and
Tommy Gunn.
Tommy Gunn, yeah, and they're fighting in a back alley at the end.
Yeah.
And number 4, that's where was it 2 or no? It had to be. It was 3 or 4 where it was revealed Paulie had a robot he was fucking.
That's 4.
That's one of those. That's 4.
Because Stallone decided to take the robot fucking out of his director's cut version that he released.
That's so weird. Like, we gotta how do we prove he has a lot of money? Well, he has a fuck bot. All right, sure.
Well,
do they exist yet? Well, they do.
I bought it for my kid, and then Paulie reprogrammed it because he's got that sort of time on his hands that he can learn how to program.
He took the time to learn Japanese to do it, to read the instruction manual.
Yeah, so and now now he's got speaking like a lady, and yeah, I don't even want to know what he does with the robot because he spends a lot of time in the attic, just him and the robot and a case of beer.
Can you imagine getting a hand job with those cold clamps? Just those cold metal clamps. It's like, hey, Rock, I'll take what I can get,
Paulie's like, I just put an oven mitt on it. It's the same fucking thing. Good enough. Makes it feel like I got a real wife.
Just getting a hand job through an oven mitt. Hey, when you're done with those cookies.
Yeah, this weird thing is there's the Rocky IV director's cut, and this is the interesting thing. It's got extra scenes in it that are kind of cool. There's another scene where Rocky's talking to Adrian. That's kind of a nice little scene and everything like that. And there's some other stuff there too, but they sort of tone down a bit of I don't know. It makes it feel like it's more like a 2000s style movie than an 80s, But what I really want to see now is because both those versions exist. Give me the ultimate cut, which has all the new scenes you put in it. Don't edit anything out of the original version. Just make it a 2-hour long epic. That's what I want.
I'm just thinking back, going to that for a second. That was Rocky. Which cut was that? That was Rocky Balboa.
That was Rocky IV. No, Rocky IV, the one of Dolph Lundgren. So
okay.
Stallone, a couple years ago, he did a re-edit of Rocky IV, and
okay.
It was just there's a documentary you can watch on YouTube where it's just Stallone sitting in a room eating a bagel, and there's just one guy on the editing bay. He's like, yeah, you could cut that out right there. Hey, put that in there. He's pretty much just sitting there with his feet up on the couch, commanding orders to this guy on working a computer. That's what it literally looks like. It's like you rented out
Get the cut tool. Move the line at 378. I know. Right click. I know, Sly. I know. What are you saying? No.
We get the gloves out.
It's fine. Oh look, those bagels. They just returned. They just came back with their new order. What? Runs out, gets more bagels.
Good. We got him out of the room now for a bit. I can actually start editing this thing.
The best part about Noah's Bagels is November. They got the pumpkin flavor. Yeah, we know, Sly. We know.
So yeah, you have that. It's cool. It's worth watching. I'll say this: the Rocky IV director's cut is definitely worth watching, but I don't think it's not the one you're going to keep watching. As the time goes on.
I think those are yeah. I think that I'm trying to think of a director's cut that I mean, it's not the same quality of movie, and I can't believe I think this is maybe the second time in 1 year I've made this reference, but I'm used to thinking director's cut's usually the better version, but sometimes it's no, there's just a lot of extra shit, and
yeah,
I don't know. I just thought maybe this would be I was in high school. I was young and naive. About the Underworld director's cut. And that thing, the only thing that's really noticeable is there's a sex scene where two vampires are bite fucking each other. And then beyond that, it's a lot more scenes of exposition and people standing in dark, dreary rooms with a black and blue color palette and just being yeah, so vampire exposition. Okay. And shit it's 20 minutes longer somehow. And I know that that sex scene was not that long, so
that was probably 25 seconds. Everything else is just these extras. It's like when you watch an extended cut of a movie and then someone goes, well, what were the extra scenes in there? And you're like, I know there was, but I can't tell you what they were.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, it was also there's that point when I'm not gonna lie, we were all little gooners in high school, but at the exact same time
Gooner?
Yeah, exactly. No, but the thing is
I like that word.
before you have internet readily available, which we didn't really have internet readily available, and if we did, it was fucking dial up. It was so you go see an R-rated movie dude, there's gonna be tits in this movie. Awesome. We're in high school. Awesome. We don't have cell phones yet. This isn't a bit, So just I remember that trailer had that sex scene. I was then I went to go see the movie, oh, that fucking movie lied to us. That hot blonde vampire chick, she doesn't get naked at any point. Oh, this fucking sucks. The movie, I still like the movie, but, it is what it is. And then, my friends at the time, the director's cut came out like, dude, this has to be insane. You know, there's a sex scene still, but there's no actual nudity, at least in that movie. So we're just like, oh, okay, all right, well, the movie's just 20 minutes longer. So
$20 more.
Movie's like 20 minutes longer, so that means there's got to be like some more action. Like maybe like Kate Beckinsale fires a gun like 2 more times, maybe, but that's about it.
Well, there is one thing that you do kind of realize a lot of times in extended cuts and so on like that. It's not like for the most part in a lot of films, it's not like they're like, oh yeah, they generally were saving all this great action footage that they spent a copious amount of money on for, you know, it's like, no. Mostly it's like, the only thing you mostly get a lot of times is more kind of like story, like, you know, filling it out a little bit more. And don't get me wrong, I love director's cuts and extended cuts, so I'm not saying anything against it, but it's like one of those ones sometimes when like you think about it, you're like, oh man, is there going to be this like extra action? You're like, you know, unless it was controversial. I take that back. If they were controversial, sometimes like, this is one I really want to see because it was in Arnold Schwarzenegger's book. He talked about it, and he mentioned on Collateral Damage that because that movie was going to come out right before 9/11 or right as 9/11 was, and then like of course they put it on hold for like 3 to 5 months or whatever the heck it was. I was really angry when I was a kid. I was like, what the fuck? I've been waiting like the whole time for this, and you're putting it on hold.
Never forget the Collateral Damage to come out today. Yeah.
So, okay, like in Collateral Damage, like the end of the movie, you can almost like when someone explains that like, oh, they had to go do some reshoots and so on like that, it kind of makes sense because when Arnold goes to fight the villain at the end, he's literally like fighting him in like a parking garage. That is like the biggest giveaway that like, shit, we need a place really quickly that we can like get for the night and shoot a fight scene of Arnold fighting the dude in like the parking garage.
Man, well, that really, set of Agrabah was really expensive. Fuck.
Yeah, because the guy's a terrorist and everything. Because that was the whole thing. Collateral Damage is all about terrorism and so on like that. Still at the time period, I guess. When James Cameron said terrorism was fun. That's the line that always makes me laugh so hard. He's like, you know what, terrorism's not fun anymore. I'm like, was it ever fun? Like, let's be honest.
I think it was just when it wasn't.
I want you to go make a speech in the Middle East, James Cameron, and talk about how terrorism used to be fun.
I guess okay. Now I think some things were taken out of context. He's like, has a giant American flag behind him. No,
just a couple Avatar statues right next to him.
The Na'vi. It's like a Na'vi in like a fucking business suit behind him. These are my personal assistants. Yeah, we cloned them just to be my personal assistants. Yeah, they need their shots every 5 hours, otherwise they fucking die. But that's what happens when you get that Disney money. I mean, I had James Cameron money, but James Cameron and Disney money, I got this shit now. Yeah, fuck you.
And fucking underwater money. You don't realize what underwater money gives you too. Some people mine for crypto. I mine underwater for money. Don't ask. You can't afford it, so don't worry about it.
Want who else can't afford it? Other submarine companies. I mean, sorry, too soon? Okay. But like, they're controlling that shit with an Xbox controller. Anyway, I think it was an Xbox controller. It was some old ass controller they were controlling. That sub that caved in immediately.
Good thing no one was in that sub.
Actually, no. No, it was actually. Do you remember this? Like a year ago or whatever?
No, I don't.
No, a year ago. Does
this involve James Cameron?
Not James Cameron, but there was like a private submarine company. Like there was really unsafe, and basically I think they may have been going down with the Titanic, and it was a bunch of like super rich fucks getting into this little like
obviously not rich submarine. Enough that someone cheapened out somewhere.
Well, I don't know, like apparently they looked into like it was just good enough, and like the really sad thing is there was like a kid with his dad. The kid didn't even want to go. He just wanted to stay on the boat and play Switch or whatever, So and they go down, and people are looking for this sub for like a matter of days because the thing wasn't coming back. And then they realize that, they only have this many days left of air. And then they eventually found the wreckage and all the parts and all that. And something was wrong with the mechanics and went too low, and eventually just like crunched in.
The pressure of the ocean.
The pressure just immediately, like they wouldn't have felt it. So at least it was quick, but it was just one of those, So
yeah. Oh, geez.
There's the explanation of my tasteless joke from 5 minutes ago.
There we go. Good, because I don't remember that for some reason. So it sucks to be there, but pressure's real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The ocean proves it. But going back to Collateral Damage and the real ending that Arnold talks about in his book, so instead of fighting in a garage at the very end with the terrorist, no. Arnold is fighting the terrorist in a plane that is flying towards a building. So you can see why this didn't work out. But that sounds so much more exciting. Arnold fighting the terrorist on a plane. I already like movies that have planes in them anyway. So you have a fight scene in a plane. It's like Air Force One. You know what I mean? So I want to see that cut come on out, because I bet you there's a lot of stuff that's sitting there on Collateral Damage. Yeah, I feel like it's been long enough. You know what I mean? We could just release a special edition one. I think it's Warner Brothers film. Bring it on out. Why not?
I feel like, I know we were kind of talking about movies during 9/11 and 2000s earlier, but a few episodes back. But I think it's interesting because you kind of look at a movie where they're dealing with terrorists and whatnot in movies in the 90s, and it is way more Michael Bay. I mean, literally more Michael Bay, to the degree of even True Lies, which is not Michael Bay, but Cameron. But even that movie, it's a romantic comedy action film, and they're trying to stop terrorism, Yeah. And it's way more over the top. He's like, "You're fired," all that kind of shit. And you even think about what was it? The Rock, He was like, "Hey, it's never going to happen, so let's have fun with it." Yeah, it's a USA in the 90s. Nothing bad's ever going to fucking happen here. Yeah, we're fucking deal with it, You're like, okay, maybe you might get some homegrown terrorism, like Oklahoma City. We're not going to touch that. But beyond that, And then, after 9/11, then all of a sudden, guys, we got to take this shit super serious. And you can't have, a movie where you're that's the thing. You still had a lot of the kind of, pro America, we gotta save the fucking day, but it was way more the harsh, gritty reality. It wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger doing backwards wheelie on a fucking motorcycle, firing 2 machine guns, guys in turbans. It wasn't. It kind of lost not that I need that in every movie or something, but it is a drastic contrast right there.
Yeah, no, definitely. That almost sounds more like a Chuck Norris movie where it's wheelies, turbines. Because that was all the 80s Chuck Norris movies are always very they're extreme, but still fun filled in a sense. It's extreme terrorism and having to go, back into the jungle to save some POWs and all that kind of stuff.
Basically Metal Slug the movie, some shit like that.
Pretty much. That's literally what a Chuck Norris movie is. It's proto Metal Slug, Oh man, but yeah, I do love a good extended cut and a good director's cut, and especially when you hear, because I know so many of the movies that we've ever reviewed on the podcast, and when you kind of do the research on them and so on like that, one of the worst things always kind of is you hear about oh, we had all this extra really badass footage, but either one, this was going to make it an NC-17 movie, or two, we had a something or another, they had to trim it out for a reason. But the fact is that when the 2000s came and you had all the special edition DVDs, and really, I will say that's probably the best glory time period of special features is the 2000s. They sort of start with Laserdisc, of course, and they put a little bit on there, and you could get those expensive VHSs back in the day too, where it came with a second VHS. I remember Alien 3 had one where it had a documentary on it and so on, but those weren't super common yet. The 2000s, literally special features almost came for a while there, on practically every movie. If your movie didn't have special features, what were you doing? You know what I mean? And sometimes the special features were longer than the actual movie. But sadly, that kind of faded away by about 2010s. And then ever since then, other than select few movies, it's never really been the same.
I remember Hellboy had a 2.5 hour documentary. The first Hellboy had a 2.5 hour documentary on the making of that movie. And it was holy shit, back then, they're we're just going to pile it all in. Now it's just maybe you might get a trailer, if that, A lot of times you don't even get that now. But unless you get the special edition or something like that. But I remember even when DVDs were on our way in and VHSs were on their way out, I remember they would still maybe throw a couple of special features after the credits. I remember the X-Men, at least 20th Century Fox did this. X-Men and Titan AE, they both had special features that were at the end of the VHS. So, all the Zoomers out there, they're like, yeah, you guys must be about to die. You must be old as fuck. Like, yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, it's like those Zoomers that like to call. This always drives me up the wall. Is like they refer to, I think I mentioned this before, but shooting games from the 90s are called boomer shooters, and that really bothers me. Now, if you're saying boomer because you're running off a rocket launcher, okay, maybe, but like, I hate to sort of say it, but like, you don't get it like that. The boomers didn't want you to play those games. You know what I mean? Like, that's a boomer shooter should be a game from the 70s, if there is such a thing. You know what I mean?
The thing is, right now you're saying this like, listen here, Sonny. Let me tell you something. Yeah.
Well, it's just one of those ones. It's like I
get you.
I've never heard anybody explain it to me. So maybe they're like, well, it's because you run around with rocket launchers in half those games.
Because you're old,
mindlessly shoot stuff.
No, it's because
it's not Call of Duty, then it ain't real duty.
Anything at that age, well,
nowadays probably more like if it's not Fortnite and it's not like Overwatch and Call of Duty's kind of, let's be honest, that's kind of an old one now too. Like you feel like you are an old man ranting if you say that one.
if you're not like, if this thing came out before I was born, it is therefore old because I am 15. I know everything kind of shit. But even then, though, that kind of like your average Zoomer, I don't even think your average Zoomer is that like. Probably just tuned out after this rant, but your average Zoomer probably isn't even like, I don't even think they're that. I think that it's not a generation thing, it's just an age thing. When you're like 14 to, let's say, probably like 19, maybe even like 19 and back, there's this thing of like fuck respect. I don't give a shit, man. I'm going to be young forever. Well, even though you're going to get older eventually, you just kind of have that attitude. And a lot of people say that like, oh man, millennials are so like, I remember boomers saying millennials are so self-interested, or oh, Zoomers are so self-interested. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's just a generational. No, it's just not generation. It's just the age thing. It's just like, that's their version. They're just like, plus I think one thing is like, we've said this a million times before, but like, our generation really had a lot of whatever was left over. So just like, after Hey Arnold, I Love Lucy comes on. All right, sure. What else am I going to do at 9:00 at night on a Tuesday? So, but now it's just like, oh, you got lots of options. Why the fuck would you watch I Love Lucy when you could watch anything else?
Yeah, no. That's definitely true because that's the satellite / cable like era where you just had you just watched what came on. You couldn't choose. So like you're like, well, I'm already on the couch. I'm not getting up now.
Yeah. I'm not going to get up. The controller is dead. I'm not getting up to physically change it on the TV. Something no one does anymore.
Yeah. You know what I mean? The buttons are broken. I don't want to get shocked. You know what I mean?
I'm not Mike Myers' son, and like so I married an ex-murderer. Like, head no, yells whenever he tells his kid change the TV.
I was like, I remember there was I think it was an old Tim Allen joke or whatever, where he used to have one. He's like, yeah, the remote that I had when growing up was, Mom! Just laying there on the couch and just like yelling out to your mom to go change it.
She's doing that. He's like, like every
like 12-year-old.
That is such like a fucking like, I want to know where came from. It's just like so much like, okay.
Well, that was his whole stand-up bit, was that he had just the tool man, like in a sense, like man time, like that was his kind of bit, was that he was the man all primal like an ape and everything like that.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. I just know Home Improvement. I wasn't aware Tim the Toolman Taylor was an extension of a stand-up bit.
Yeah, so that was kind of his thing, was that he had kind of like his bits were all based off of like home repair, and doing things around the house type stuff. So that's where it all kind of spawned. And it's just that man is a primal animal. Well, because it sounds weird. I read Tim.
I just thought it was a guy. I just thought it was just a thing of just like I'm just gonna laugh like this. Like people like just clap with their fucking hands. Like, you did it! You fucking did it!
I remember like one of those times, like I had a copy of like the Tim Allen book. It sounds like such a weird one to have. Like, here's a Tim Allen autobiography.
I remember a friend had the Home Improvement Super Nintendo game where you have to fight buzzsaws or some shit.
Yeah, you got the house is gone. Like it's pretty much like literally like maximum overdrive at the house.
You have to go to Wilson as a save point or some shit. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, I know I've tried it out back in the day, but I can't remember exactly. But I should pull that up again. But
Come up with the timely references here. Google exists. There you go.
I still throw Home Improvement on that. That's like one of those ones that takes me back to my youth or whatever, because I watched the living daylights out of that show back in the day.
I don't know if I think maybe I might get some of the warm fuzzies just from the pure nostalgia of it, but I can't imagine myself laughing too much at it just because there's so much of the, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess there's the stuff that I don't know. I guess there's some stuff
like the family drama, like the some melodramatic, oh, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, is like he's got an issue at school type thing, like
that kind of shit. Well, there's a lot of things like I can handle like family drama shit here and there, but I guess there's like so many like the family sitcom. Like it's got to be a really fucked up family for me to be interested in it. You know what I mean? It's so much of it's like clean and like all this. I mean, I say that. I mean, I liked Modern Family enough, but at the same time, though, like I say, like it has to be a really fucked up family. Oh, Modern Family was okay. That was kind of funny enough, but at the same time, I don't know. I guess like a lot of the family sitcoms, I guess they all kind of run together after a while. You know what I mean?
Well, I watched so many of them growing up. I mean, like that. So I'm so kind of used and very nostalgic to it all because that was kind of like my favorite genre of TV. And literally, that was always the thing I always wanted. That's why Pizza Boys became a sitcom because I just like sitcoms.
Well, sitcoms, so, I just mean the family sitcom. That's what I mean.
Yeah. But I mean, growing up, it was like Home Improvement, Seinfeld, Family Ties, Frasier, Married with Children. That's the fucked up one right there. Married with Children was like, All in the Family.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can think of like the ones that I probably have more fondness for are probably the ones where it's more of a friend group kind of thing, like Seinfeld or even
It's Always Sunny.
Even though this one's later, yeah, It's Always Sunny. It's kind of weird because I almost feel like if you look long enough, you could find like family sitcoms still or whatever. But I think it's kind of funny that family sitcoms, live action family sitcoms, are basically just replaced with like animated family sitcoms. They're just trying to be Family Guy.
Yeah, there sure is a lot of those on there. I feel like they don't seem to ape anything else but Family Guy still, like whenever you see their
occasionally style. Rick and Morty.
Yeah, they got a little bit of Rick and Morty sprinkled over the top, but yeah. No, well, it's weird because CBS still holds on to the... I noticed they're the ones that seem to have like the sitcom classic style still going strong because they're the ones that... it's been a moment since I kind of watched them there, but they're the ones that had Modern Family. They're the ones that had... Two and a Half Men. Yeah, 2.5 Men when that was going and so on like that. Yeah, I know. I was trying to think like all my references were going to be like because all those shows are all like they don't exist anymore. So I was like, wait a second, my references aren't modern enough.
David Spade Show. I don't know. Yeah.
I used to watch that one. What the hell was that David Spade show called again?
I don't remember.
It was pretty much just the one where it's like everybody else is in a relationship, but Dave.
That just sounds like But Dave, just like that.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what it was. He was like laying on the couch, whatnot, and it had the dude who played the Tick in there and whatnot. That was a pretty good one.
Dietrich Bader?
No, not Dietrich Bader. The guy with the deep voice.
I'm going to have Dietrich Bader. I'm going to use his name. Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. I'm drawing blank on his name, too.
But yeah, there was kind of that too. Yeah, it's just I'm trying to think of like something modern, but like whatever. The whole point is it the classic?
Patrick something.
Whatever.
Sorry.
Patrick.
Something.
Yeah,
Patrick something.
Patrick Warburton. There we go.
Patrick. Yeah, there you go.
Fucking get there. Well, what I was going to with like that, there was a part in that Tim Allen book I remember where he talked about he's like there should be a theme park made for men where pretty much it's just like a giant construction area and it's pretty much there's two parts to it. There's a part 1 and a part 2 of the area, and so there's construction land and you go in there and you can build whatever the hell you want. And, and you get to drive all kinds of tractors and machinery and use all the things you always want to. But then there's the dark evil side of man and it's destruction land where all that stuff that you just built you get to blow up and destroy.
Yeah. Well, eventually it's like, it's not good enough. We're starting over. Deep down, you like, it's probably as good as ever was going to get. But you keep lying yourself like, you got to start over. And that's coming from somebody who's been working on the same book for 10 years. But progress, believe it or not, has happened.
Yeah. Well, it's that sort of thing too, where like,
Not to make it all about me, but yeah, Tim Allen's book. I'm just saying I understand that, like, yeah.
Yeah. There's just as much fun creating something as there is like, hey, let's see that building blow up.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, there is a thing.
Like the guy who gets to be like the demolisher, like in Las Vegas. I bet you that guy has a great job. And I was like, you know what? Watch this fucking shit. Presses the button. Just watch it. Yeah. We've been working on that for the last 3 months, setting charges up so it can perfectly fall down, not tipping one bit. Yeah, I'm a fucking master.
What was that line? And like,
who's getting their dick sucked tonight, huh? Fucking slapping high fives.
It's that part in Tropic Thunder. Like I got a bunch of C4. I got a bunch of C4 strapped to nuts in this fucking jungle. Like he's like straps, like sets the bombs off. He's like, Mother Nature just shit her pantsuit. He's just like.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking what's his name? Danny McBride. Always good. But yeah, there's one of those things like that. But yeah, Tim. I don't even know where that Tim Allen thing was really going.
I don't know. We've been all over the place. We went from like when terrorism was fun to Tim Allen, and somehow Underworld's fit in there somewhere.
And somehow, some way, Boomer Shooters is just one of those ones. Like, I hate that it's now like a fucking selection on Steam. You can like literally click like, are you a Boomer Shooter? Like, put your tag in there so that you know what kind of games you have, you old fuck.
Here's your senior citizens discount, by the way. Do you remember do you remember the original 151 Pokemon rap? Well, it's okay if you don't. We understand Alzheimer's is a thing, but. You can get if you're there for it. Just show us. Yeah, we'll give you the discount. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll give you your hospice like into the life run. Oh, guess what? You could set up LAN and play fucking Doom 2, you fucking old fuck. With real people in the same stinky room.
That's a thing. When you think about it, there is going to be a point where, because I don't look forward to getting into a retirement home, and hopefully I never really need to reach that point. But at the exact same time, retirement home, we think of retirement homes, you think of like, God, this looks so fucking depressing. This is where everyone just goes to die, and everyone, what are you gonna do? You gotta play bridge at 3:00 in the afternoon, then take a nap, and then maybe you wake up the next day. Like that. Like so, like you get kind of like, oh God, this is fucking sad. But you think about it, like. Well, it's not like we're going to suddenly revert to people that were born in 1901. It's going to be like, oh no, hey, you guys want to who like, hey, who wants to come on over? Who wants to come on over and play some fucking Switch? Hey, you want to come over and play some like 360? Oh fuck yeah, man! All right, come on.
Oh shit! Look at Tommy. He drug out the Super Nintendo. Oh man, it still works and everything. My God, what you got? You got some Donkey Kong Country?
Well, like, and also like when you think about it, like the little like get together lounge area, it's not going to be some like soft beige with like off brand like off end pink or something like that. It's going to make it look like a fucking like craft like a craft brewery from like today or like the 2010s. You know what I mean? That's what they're going to try to make it look like. Just so I feel like it's going to be, not saying like I'm looking forward to being 80, but at the same time, I think there's probably worse things.
Well, I feel like too in the future, like they'll actually probably have like retirement homes will be set up probably a little bit different than they are kind of now.
Or
like,
could just be old man get in the pod. Might be that.
Yeah, well, they'll probably be that too. But like, let's just say if they're designed well, you'll be like, well, what kind of retirement home would you want? Well, I want one that has heavy metal playing, fucking neon. I want it to look like the fucking Turtles, fucking or the Shredder's lair. Like, can you just get us all like a bunch of? We're gonna look just like those kids, just at 80 fucking years old.
It's gonna be. Have you ever seen? Do you ever watch the show? Have you seen the show Black Mirror?
No, I never have.
There's an episode. You don't entirely realize what's happening at first, but then as it goes on, you piece it together. There's an episode where there's a retirement home basically, and what it is you don't realize that you just think it takes place in the 80s, and you're watching the show like, the show always has a technology or sci-fi angle. Where's the angle? I can't figure it out. And you see like this pretty young lesbian, like these two young lesbians kind of like hooking up in this little beach town in the 80s, and then like at the same time things restart, and it's just kind of like they remember each other, but they're just like, where is she? Have you seen her around? Then someone just says, try 1997. Sometimes she's around there. It was a time travel thing. And then you realize that, you kind of put it together. It's basically a Matrix thing where old people can go into this computer and live like they're in their 20s again. And they can choose like what decade and whatever. And it's always this little beach town, at least in this version. And then you find out that as they're getting ready to die, or as they die, they can sign off to where they have their brain digiscanned and they're uploaded into this cloud and they're there forever. So it's basically like heaven, more or less. But they said that so they're talking about people like, well, here's the thing. Some people, they've been here for so long, they just don't feel anything anymore. And that's what I'm afraid of. That's why when I die, I just want to actually die. I don't want to be scanned here just because I feel like I'm just going to be like, it's not going to be the same thing, So it's just going to be, we'll just be a copy of us, and that copy is going to get bored. The copy is just going to be feel nothing after a while because you can't handle eternity. No one can handle eternity. So I just thought that was like an interesting idea for an episode. It's a pretty good episode too.
Yeah, no, that is an interesting comment. Well, because that's pretty realistic of like what could happen in like, maybe even less than 100 years, is because I really do think it's like, especially like when you look at all like the VR stuff and like that, it's like it's getting, give it about like a decade more. And it's that kind where it's like, yeah, you could practically live in here and not go anywhere else. Like it might start to get to that point where like, yeah, it's like, you want to go fucking live like it's 1986? Yeah, we got it all programmed for you here. You know what I mean? Like, here you go. And you just jump back in time in a sense digitally, and you just, there you are. Or you just, you go into your world. Like the thing too, especially when it gets to that point where like, if you could just go and be like, I just want to fucking live like it's 1995 Pokemon Red and Blue, but I want to be like actually in that world, like there, like it just gets really in depth, where like you can full on walk around, in a sense, mentally walk around, I guess you would probably say, but like it would feel real.
Yeah, I can imagine something like that. I guess it'd also be the thing of like, would it be other people in there with you, or would it just be the game? There's probably a single player mode for that, I imagine. But at the exact same time, that'd also be like, I imagine to some extent that's like chasing the dragon to a certain extent. Like it's got to be cool for a minute, but at the same time, be like, oh man, yeah, I don't know. I guess like I'm just imagining that like an old man, only like 2 people left in his life who he hardly ever sees or talks to. He's just like, Pokemon. Oh yeah, let me start with the Squirtle. That was my favorite starter. And then going in and just being kind of like, I don't know. I feel like that would be kind of cool, but at the same time, like, make it happen soon. Because it would suck for that to happen right before you die and just be like, there's no one left but my Squirtle,
No, I used to have friends that I could trade with, but they have all passed along by now, and it's just me and Squirtle
to the great
here.
Pokeball in the sky. Like, he's not even in the VR thing. He's saying this shit.
Just turns out you end up being that old man at the beginning of fucking like Viridian City. It's like, let me tell you how to catch a Pidgey, young lad. I was once a youth like you. Yes, we used to be able to put in whatever name we wanted, so we put in really shitty stuff that would get you thrown off of Xbox Live nowadays, but it was the 90s and nobody cared. And your rival was an ass, let's be honest. Let me show you how. Young person, you will be able to catch this. Sir, I already know how to do this, man. I don't need to fucking listen to you. Like, no. Don't take this away from me. This is all I have. This is what I've been living for, is to become this man who is there to set another boy on his journey to becoming a Pokemon master.
That's the thing. Just like you get to like Viridian City, and there's an old man like wasted laying in the road, like, fuck you, I ain't moving. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I had my coffee. Now let me show you. I was a Pokemon trainer once. Like, oh really, where are you from? Battletown. This is as far as I got. It's like, you remind me of me.
I got to Viridian City, and the first thing I found was a bar. What happened from there? I don't remember, but it's not important to the story.
I'm here now. Would you like to say
I was 10 years old, and they, back in my day, as long as you had money, they didn't care. So they just brought me in. I bought a drink because I thought I was an adult, and here I am today.
That is true. Like 10-year-olds do kind of like that economy does rely on like 10-year-olds that do like cockfights. Basically, that's what the whole world depends on. But like even that whole thing about like going back, there's something Pokemon oriented, going back to that shit. Well, it was something like I'm just thinking about like I don't know, like I'm not one of those people who just like I'm sick of nostalgia, but sometimes it just kind of makes me a little bit more depressed than anything. Like kind of like, God, fuck, it was that long ago, wasn't it? You know?
That's called melancholy, because that's pretty much like the definition of melancholy is when you kind of think about stuff, you go, man, that was a really great time back in the day, and then afterwards you're like, fuck, it's never gonna happen again. I got to be careful because I get that a lot, and then it's like, then you get really like, you're like, well, what's the fucking point, man? Like, you know what? If I don't wake up tomorrow, that's okay, you know. And you start to get to those kind of points. You're like,
and the Sonic 3 trailer comes out, like, well, maybe.
Yeah, I guess there's a little bit left in this world for me.
Just put the shovel back for a minute, yeah. No,
yeah, just be like, you know, don't worry, guys. I got this all planned out. I want you to bury me like a pharaoh with all my old stuff. Don't you dare sell that on fucking eBay. I'm taking this to the afterlife. You know what I mean?
Did you see the new Sonic trailer?
I saw the one it played in the cinema. I don't know if it was anything
How long ago?
A couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, there's one that just dropped like 2 days ago.
Yeah, no, I haven't been. I was gonna wait till Thanksgiving went by and then go see. Maybe they'll play it before Gladiator 2.
It's so funny to say that because they actually had like, of all things, you know, sometimes you go see a movie and like they'll have like that studio will put out like kind of like an ad, like we know we're gonna see this movie. This movie's linked, so let's put out an ad advertising this movie in front of our other movie. You know they have that sometimes. They had that a Sonic 3, like it was apparently for Brazil exclusively or something. They had that a Sonic 1 in front of Gladiator 2 in Brazil for some reason, where it's just
yeah, I'll say this, Brazil is like the number one like Sega spot from back in the day. It sounds weird, but like Brazil got a lot more Sega stuff than like every other country.
Well, it's just funny because they don't show like a whole bunch of new stuff, like a couple of new quick little shots in that, and then like it cuts to like Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Shadow sitting in the theater looking all excited, like or everyone but Shadow look excited. He's just sitting there with his arms crossed, like he didn't want to fucking go. And like Sonic's like, "Are you not entertained? Gladiator 2 is about to start." Like so, I'm just imagining just kind of like this super like upbeat, happy, like let's not lie. I want to see it. You want to see it. It's a kid's movie. Let's not bullshit. But the idea of like Sonic, like, hey, Gladiator fans. I mean, say it's Brazil, so it makes more sense. But at the exact same time, it's just kind of funny to me. That's like the sure, why not? You know,
it sounds weird, but if you really think about it, this actually wraps our conversation so much back to like the DVD era. But because Gladiator for like our generation is that movie was a huge deal. Especially for DVD, because that was like the must-have DVD you kind of got when you first got your DVD player. It was like you had to have the Gladiator. It had special features galore on that second disc. You know, even on the first disc, had special features too. It was one of those ones that's like, it's overflowing with special features. You know, Ridley from all angles. You know, one of those ones. But so it kind of makes sense because that's in a weird way. It's like somebody did their research properly in marketing, you know, which doesn't happen too often. But like the fact that like, hey, the people that are probably going to go see Gladiator 2 really hardcore are the people that are really going to see Sonic the Hedgehog 3 as well.
I think it depends. You probably get a lot of like boomers that also want to see Gladiator. Like, sure, I like it, but at the same time, they'll get people our generation.
Where's Russell Crowe at?
Yeah. We get people our generation that want to see it and all that too, because I was like, yeah. So I mean, when I think back on middle school, Street Fighter Alpha 3, Gladiator on DVD, Sonic Adventure 1, yeah, a lot of that kind of comes together. So you know, a lot of those interconnect. But at the same time, though, like I don't know, he's fucking dead. So I'm like, okay, is it his illegitimate kid? I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out. I'll check it out. It's like one of those things. I'm sure is Ridley Scott actually directing it?
Yes.
Oh, he's actually directing it. Okay.
That's how I kind of looked at it too. Because at first it was kind of like, you kind of had that like, I'm like, I'm sure it's probably going to be good. You know what I mean? But like, I didn't feel like I needed to go necessarily on my way. See, as I said, Russell Crowe's not there, so it seems kind of strange. You know what I mean?
Apparently, this one's about the fall of Rome, so I guess that's an interesting place to put it.
I mean, I guess it's like 300 too. You know what I mean? It's like it's like didn't they all fucking die in the first one? Yeah. Well, there's a new batch.
There's
of 300.
one guy. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
300 more. Yeah.
So it's kind of like one of those ones.
I never even saw 302. I just didn't really care enough for it. Like, so that was like also one of those sequels
it's one of those ones. I got it on DVD for like a couple bucks, like probably at the pawn shop or something like that back in the day, and it's worth watching. I'm not gonna say it's not. If you didn't watch it, you're not missing out. But if you did watch it, you'd be like, oh, it's decent.
Not the fact that it's Frank Miller has nothing to do with it, but it sort of seems kind of like Sin City 2 came out just a little too late and at the same time. Like, Sin City 2, I don't really have a whole lot of problems with it. It just kind of came out so late. And like, that's one of those movies I watch it and like, I liked it fine, but it was also like, it just felt kind of like sort of a retread. You know what I mean? I know it was other stories, other books. We said we wanted it and we finally got it. And they're like, I don't know. Like, it's just like Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller, like, we did it. It took us this long. What's wrong? Like, I don't know. I just fucking, can you say a full fucking sentence?
You're just fucking mumbling like the end of life Hunter S. Thompson.
Okay. So,
that one I always thought they screwed the pooch on that really bad. Like that movie should have came out like 2 years after Sin City 1. Like you would have fucking struck bank with that fucking film. But the fact that they waited so long, it was it literally like no one cared anymore. It was like,
I think it's also something because you're. I mean, if you read the comics, I guess and I only Sin City comic I have is the first the one
book that comes with this. That came with the special edition DVD.
That's the only one I have. That's the only one I read. But at the exact same time, though, Dame to Kill For, I think it was. The thing is, it's like, it's all out of order, so you just kind of see this. It's apparently new stories were made just for the second movie, but like you see, like, oh well, that's Marv. Well, Marv's he's gonna live because he's gonna die in the next movie, And apparently, between here and there, Marv and Jessica Alba character, she became like a Dark Avenger and like a gun-toting badass and like avenge like the Bruce Willis character. So it was just kind of like, and that all happened between here and there, and no one talked. Yeah, and it just kind of like that kind of shit. Like, meanwhile, off screen when you were looking,
Well, and it has been 15 years, I guess. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. So I guess a lot could happen, but yeah, that was one of those ones where it's just like that's kind of the example. Like you can't. There's certain things you can't wait too long.
But what I meant is like Marv was there, so it couldn't have been. It had to be like somewhere within like a plot.
Oh yeah, I guess
movie one.
Yeah, because it goes kind of back and forth. Yeah,
because he helps her.
That's right. That's one of those ones I need to watch that one again. I think I have it on DVD, but I think I've only watched it in the cinema. I haven't
seen it since the theater. I saw it in theaters, and that was it. And I like I said, like, it's fine. I think when you did an episode on it, that was when I first moved to San Francisco. I was like, you were just kind of like, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's literally how I remember. I don't remember having like there was nothing that really bothered me. I don't remember anything that bothered me. I just felt like it was just like there was something like missing, and and that's sort of what it was. It's just like that thing where it kind of felt like. But if that would have came out in say like 2000 whatever, like 8 or 9, like that, man, that would have fucking like just stormed the gates. Like because that was that thing, is like people kind of forget, but that was that really golden era of like wide range of comics. You know what I mean? Because kind of what happened is that like after about the 2000s, like kind of mid to late 2000s, going into early 2010s, like the alternative comics started to fall off the face of the earth, like anything that was not really like Marvel and DC. But at that time period, people were still like really like, oh man, fucking 300's getting a book, Judge Dredd's getting a movie, all those Watchmen, all that kind of stuff that was not just like mainstream stuff was kind of getting it. So, you know, it was kind of cool to see that. And I think that's where it fit in. But I think when it came out, it was kind of like, by that point, people were just so into like the Marvel and DC stuff that it was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Sin City. Oh, that was cool for a time.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, it's crazy thinking about it. And I know 4 years goes by quicker than you think, but it's not right around the corner. But in 4 years, the MCU will be 20 years old.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like, you know, when I was watching those movies, just like the early Avengers ones and stuff like that, you know, it's like, yeah, you think about it, it's like that early 2000s, it feels quite different. Like those movies, it's like they still feel modern. It's not like there's nothing about like 2000s movies that feels like, wow, this feels a little bit like different, you know. I feel like that cutoff really happens in like about right in 1990. That's like, I don't know what it is. Like Terminator 2 is the best example of like, it feels like from modern or from like old school cinema to modern cinema, because you just look at like something like even Total Recall, that's 1990, and then 1991's Terminator 2, they look way different from each other, like as far as like one looks like an 80s movie and one starts to look like what modern cinema kind of starts to look like.
I think a lot of times movie trends, they kind of like, we don't notice them as they happen. Like just this movie looks a little different, this movie looks a little different, then they start to get kind of same-ish, and then like, oh, this one tried something kind of different, and they piggyback off each other, and you don't really realize it when it's happening. Maybe the very obvious ones you do, but I like one that I think is very obvious is Guardians of the Galaxy. Like once Guardians of the Galaxy started using a bunch of licensed music and like genre stuff, like everything that's genre started using a lot of licensed music, and it wasn't the first to do that, but it was the first one to like make such a big deal about it, you know.
Well, and that, in the comedy, because that's also what changes like the rest of the movies is the Guardians of the Galaxy, because anything kind of before Guardians of the Galaxy comparatively doesn't have that much comedy in it, you know. At the most, it's like there's like the one character, like a la Tony Stark or something like that. I mean,
down to the point of like there's like a scene in Umbrella Academy, and a lot of time in Umbrella Academy they had like a lot of licensed music, and they would do something like they would have like there's like a brutal like serious fight scene, and they're playing Backstreet's Back, and it's not really played for comedy as much, but it's more of just like it actually kind of fits the scene sort of, and it's like something very dramatic and violent happens at the end of the fight, so you're like, oh shit, like Backstreet's Back, all right, you know, kind of like fits somehow. And but it's at the same time like, okay, like you kind of see that that's just a weird little subsection. Like, okay, that's where we started seeing like big properties using licensed music in like every fight scene. Like I saw like Blue Beetle for the other day, which I actually liked more than I thought I would. Like I didn't think I'd dislike it. I just think like, oh, it's okay. Like if I saw it the year it came out, I don't think it would have made my top 10, but I liked it more than what I assumed. I just thought it'd be like, I just thought it was going to be kind of like, I've seen this, you know, which I kind of did, but I guess maybe since I went in with kind of lower expectations, like once we got past, probably what
is the low
once
expectations.
Once I got past like the first 20 minutes and the whole like learning curve with the suit, I kind of was a little bit more into it. I'm not gonna lie, when he was like kicking the shit out of goons while they're playing like Cypress Hill, I was like, okay, I'm kind of feeling this. Like it didn't take that moment for me to be into it, but like, you know, and the idea of like the legacy of the Blue Beetle before him was there, so it's not just like out of nowhere, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, here's the Blue Beetle everyone knows and likes, but here's the one that was before him. Like that's cool. So you know, I like, anyway, I just noticed, I was just one way of saying like how that movie used a lot of licensed music in that, like in ways you wouldn't expect, or ways you expect now, but maybe not back then. Like if that movie came out like in 2010, like dude, the part when they get in the fucking robot and they start playing Motley Crue, or the part they start playing Cypress Hill while he's knocking the fuck out of those guys, oh my god, that'd be like one of those scenes people are talking about. But now it's just like, oh yeah, this, okay, cool, you know.
Yeah, well, that's how I kind of felt about Blue Beetle. It reminded me of those movies, like, if that came out, like, back in the day, you'd be like, oh, that's actually pretty solid. But, like, kind of now, it's like, it's not bad, but it's kind of... Towards the end, when they start having, like, the whole family start fighting, I was like, okay, this is getting a little bit corny, but, you know, when Grandma pulls out the minigun, and it's like, oh, okay, this is...
I guess the one thing is they implied the grandma was, like, in guerrilla warfare earlier, so that was, like, the one thing where I'm like, okay, they brought that back around. It wasn't out of nowhere, but, yeah. And I guess they're trying to, like, put the twist on it that, you know, he has you know, the whole familia thing, you know, but
well, they're definitely running with that fucking Coco thing right there, like, you know,
culture and Mexican shit. I don't fucking know.
So sometimes I think it's just that thing that somebody sees that like they almost like then they start stereotyping groups like, oh well, this is what they are, right? Yeah, like it like sometimes it doesn't feel like was this put together by like actually like Mexicans or is the white guys like, yeah, I saw fucking Coco, I know what's up.
I remember seeing an interview with the director.
I went to a Mexican restaurant once or twice before.
Chevy's? Yeah.
Yeah, I should know about going to a fucking taco truck. You know what they call those? Roach coaches.
My other favorite restaurant is Taco Bell. I love Baja Blast. Yeah. No,
you know you can only get that there.
And the Dorito tacos? Fuck yeah. Authentic.
In America, you know what they're doing at Taco Bell now is that they're doing the generations meal, so you can go there and get stuff from the 70s, 80s, and 90s to spike your nostalgic urge.
It's happening. It's happening. No, like nostalgia's always been, it's always interchanging for the next generation, but it's interesting seeing like certain things pinpoint this generation or that generation. Like right now, comic books, like not comic movies, but comic books are really targeting our generation because I don't know how many issues they're in or if they even have one out yet. But before Tim Sale died, they were going to do the final like another like long Halloween type story. It was going to be called the Last Halloween or something like that. And since Tim Sale died, it was going to be written by Jeff Loeb. Since Tim Sale died, they're doing that thing. Like he only got like 1 or 2 covers made before he died. They're now doing this thing where it's like every book is a different artist. So I just heard about it. I haven't heard if it's out yet or when it comes out or anything like that. So that's like, all right, when the trade comes out, I'll definitely probably grab that. Mm-hmm. And then I think during this new like initiative, All-In initiative, I think I saw something. I just want to make sure I'm not talking my ass here. I want to say, did I see this? Because this is... One second. You can edit this part out, not to make more. Did you see this? Batman. Okay, well, let's see. Is this? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I did see this. They are coming out with a sequel to Batman Hush, like Hush 2, which is kind of one of those things. It's kind of like...
Wasn't there already that Paul Dini Hush sequel? I thought
there's like a couple like little like there's Hush Returns, which wasn't Paul Dini, but then there's like Paul Dini came in, fleshed the character out more. Which the thing is, I guess, is specifically leading back to Hush 2. So I don't know if Jeff Loeb is writing it with Jim Lee or something, but like I just remember seeing something was on like a cover. It's like including a preview to Hush 2 on like one of the covers of like the new comics coming out, and I was like, wait, what? Because that's the thing. He's not a character that never touched since then. He pops up. He's not maybe the most frequent character, but he pops up here and there. So I'm just like, okay, Long Halloween, Hush 2, you guys are restarting the Ultimate Universe, but instead of making Peter Parker in his like teens, like we would have been when we were reading it, he's now in his 30s. Yeah, like all like this, they're relaunching the Ultimates, and then this isn't so much. This is more of just kind of more in line with Ultimates, but plus DC's doing their version of the Ultimate Universe, which is Absolute. So I feel like right now they're trying to kind of like come back.
Well, I think it's because they also realize that comic books have a cutoff age. It's like if you're under 30, there's a really high chance you don't read comic books.
I think that's sort of what the Absolute is. It's a new jumping on point for a lot of people.
Yeah, because it's just one of those ones. I think they realize it's like, oh shit, people that read comics is like 30 to 60 years old. Like that's like the age range, and anybody below that, like I've even just learned that from Comic-Cons. Like I hate to sort of say it, but like if you saw like it generally, not saying there's not somebody, there's always somebody that's into retro stuff, but like for the most part, like anybody who is like 25 and under, fat chance that they probably like care about comics.
That's the weird thing, because I see like I'll listen to a lot of podcasts of people that are even younger than us, like people in their 20s, and they'll know the comics, but then like I don't know who these people are in real life. I guess they just have YouTube. Everyone who reads it just has YouTube channels or podcasts.
Well, that's
like,
there still is people it is, but like just like in like a majority. Yeah, they're not common. That's the thing. Is you see somebody do a podcast. Well, that's like the pinpoint, because it's like anything. There's always gonna be somebody who's into retro stuff. I'm never denying that, or old technology and things like that. But for the just as a whole, it's I've just kind of learned this from just scouring Comic Cons. It's what you want to look for is kind of like a middle-aged man is like the highest chance of someone who reads a comic book. Middle-aged man, and hopefully he doesn't have a family or anything like that, because that means he might not have any money. But if he's a single middle-aged man, he's a good
family man.
He's a good mark. Is what you're looking for.
You look lonely. Do you need a book to fill that void in your life? It's only $2.
So that's kind of it. But yeah, I've just kind of learned is if they're generally under 20, it's unless they come up to you, it's they're probably I don't like fucking comics. You're at a fucking Comic Con. You have fucking girlfriend invited me here. Fucking stupid.
She's a cosplayer. Whatever. I don't give a shit. Yeah. No, what was I gonna say? There is have you heard what they're doing with the Absolute, the new twist they're doing with the Absolute universe?
No, I mostly when I come to reading comic books, I still kind of stick to older stuff. I'm not really caught up on too many things.
Well, it's interesting because they're actually getting it's not just anybody. It's like they're getting top tier writers, at least for the beginning of these books. They of course got Scott Snyder coming back to Batman. I don't remember who's writing Superman, but someone a lot of people like. And Kelly, I think her name's Kelly Moore. She's doing Wonder Woman, and they're doing weird twists. So it's kind of they all start off even more as underdogs than before, and it's this new universe that Darkseid created. He basically sacrificed himself in the main DC continuity to go to this universe and form one of his own, where forces of darkness are more in power. Basically, Batman. The hook is, he's not born into wealth. He's lower middle class. He's an engineer. He's jacked as fuck, bigger than Frank Miller Batman. He's just a fucking monster. He just he ate every cow in existence, and he's doesn't come from wealth. It comes from just planning things out, and his parents weren't killed in his mom's still alive, but his dad was killed. His dad was a teacher. They're at a field trip at a zoo, and there's a mass shooting, and his dad got shot, and he hid out in the bat paddock, and that's where he got some of the inspiration for for being Batman. And plus, the thing that got him there is he won some kind of competition where, hey, make a model on how something that could help improve society. He made a model based on the Batwing, the way a Batwing expands to bring in a bridge to war zone or torn areas to bring supplies in, basically modeled around a Batwing. So it's it kind of, that's pretty creative how it comes full circle like that. And also all the villains, they're not really not all the villains, but some of the villains are more well, since he grew up on the streets of Gotham in the crime alley area, that's where he was actually more living. He's more friends with a lot of the villains right now, at least. So he's friends with Harvey Dent. He's friends with Two-Face. Or not Two-Face. They're not villains yet, but he's friends with Penguin, Two-Face, Catwoman, Croc, I think Riddler. So he has poker nights with them and whatnot. And so that's Batman version. That's Batman. I think the first villain's Black Mask. That's who he's going up against.
Oh, that's cool.
And then Superman, the S-Crest isn't it's not the House of L. That's you're lower class. You're at the bottom. You're fucking janitors. You clean shit. You do that. So that's basically so it's kind of a classist system. It's basically a class system that kind of more or less destroyed Krypton. And he didn't die. He was not he's the lone survivor so far, but he's not he wasn't baby. He was there to his teens, and now he's on Earth, and he's trying to basically almost do because early Superman, he was more of yo, fuck the police. Original Superman was way more anti-authority. So I think he lands in Brazil, and there's some kind of there's like some like industrialist company called Lazarus. I'm wondering if it's gonna be some kind of link to Ra's al Ghul, who's forcing miners to go into places with asbestos to like mine something, and he's going in there like saying fuck this shit and like going in there like helping clean, but he's also depowered. Like he needs like a thing to help power him. It's the suit that kind of helps contain his power. You know what I mean? Like he gets his power from the sun, but he can't really. The suit has to regulate itself, otherwise he just can't control it as much. And Lois Lane's a soldier, not a reporter. And then Wonder Woman wasn't raised in Themyscira. Themyscira was basically, I don't know if it was destroyed, but it was outlawed, and she was sent to hell. And she was raised by one of her villains,
like
Xerxes. Not Hades. She was raised by, I think, Xerxes, and in hell, and in hell learned to like still be Wonder Woman, and does a bunch of like demon slaying, monster slaying, and eventually a bunch of monsters break out of hell, and she breaks out of hell, and she's trying to bring them all in.
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting Elseworld story for sure.
Yeah, they're doing Green Lantern, they're doing Flash, and they're doing Martian Manhunter. They definitely sound kind of neat and interesting. It does seem like that, like they're trying to. I feel like it does sound like they're trying to really reach the like let's go really different with this and see if we can get like some people. I feel like they're trying to reel people back into comics, because I think they kind of realize that comics is sort of a dying breed of like, you know, they're like plays almost in a sense. I think it's getting to that point where it's just like there's people that like them. We're not denying that, but it's hard to get anybody else, you know, from the outside, you know, in here. I think it's a little bit, but I also think that like there's so many people like comic movies and comic shows that I think they're trying to give an easy jump on point, but at the same time give you something different enough to check it out. Because when you explain it to me, like at a first glance, maybe it seems like so different. Like, could we still call this thing? But then if you look at some of the details and the way it's connected, like, no, we could still definitely call this Superman. We could still definitely call this Wonder Woman. It's just like coming at it from a different angle. Yeah, it's coming from a different angle. Because I feel like sometimes when you do like an Elseworld, it's like, well, can we still call this thing over here? But I see enough connections to it to where it's still Batman, it's still Wonder Woman, it's still Superman. And I have not read these. I've just been keeping up with ComicTube more or less, and like following when I can, because I don't have a comic store near me, and I don't know. I like having physical copies when I can. So.
Yeah, I'm at that point where I actually don't buy physical anymore, just because it just gets to that thing where it's like they take up. You only have so much space in life, and pretty much I'll buy a physical book if it's one of those ones where you can't get it any other way, like one of those like really kind of obscure old books or something like that doesn't have, you know, nobody put it on digital or anything like that. But for the most part, I just stick to generally digital nowadays, and I technically kind of still prefer digital over books, or for just books in general. Like I don't know what it is, just. Doesn't take up any space. You can save places wherever you want. You know what I mean? There's something kind of nice. And I'm not saying I don't like physical, but it's just one of those ones like, you know, after a while, it's like you can only have so many crates sitting around your house just with like fucking stacks upon stacks of books and being like, Jesus.
I'm trying to, like, I'm going to have to get a new bookshelf soon. This is just, it's kind of like my addiction. So I'm not going to lie. It's kind of like, I can drop other things. Like, I don't buy Blu-rays as much anymore, but I mean, I'm going to have to move this. I don't even know if it's going to be stark enough to, hopefully you can see it down there. Whoop, shit. But all that right there, all that's comics. So eventually I'm going to have to get a new shelf, but it's not even, everything even fits on that. But I'm like, I'm already this far. Why stop? I know nothing else. You know.
Yeah, well, no, I agree to just. I got
so sad.
Where like,
that's all I know. I have nowhere else to do. Nothing else to do. Yeah.
It's just like I got to that point where I'm like, oh god, it's like literally just like stacks upon stacks upon stacks of like boxes and everything like that. I'm like, okay, it's like now it's like even hard to get to them if you need to like get to certain ones and so on like that. So it's
I have a rule. It doesn't go on the shelf until I read it or until I decide I'm never going to finish this. I'm just put it on there, you know.
Yeah, you know. So
there's only like 3 books that I'm like, I'm never going to finish this. Fuck this. I'll just put it on there, get it out of the way, you know.
Yeah, well, I have come to the conclusion, because sometimes there's some of those things where it's like you feel like, oh, I feel like I have to finish it. And go like, you know, if you got a couple issues in and it just wasn't grabbing you, I'm like, sometimes like you gone far enough. Like, you know what I mean? There's other stuff to read, and there's just not enough time in the world to force yourself to do, you know, to do something that you don't care for too much.
I feel a little bad about it. I'm just going to pull this out real quick just to show, since we're already talking comics and force a habit and whatnot. I'm not going to lie. I feel a little bad. Now, first off, one second. Let's see if we can do this without breaking everything and waking my son up. It's also maybe something to the point of like, son, all one day, this will all be yours. Like, yeah, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, fucking paper products.
Yeah, Dad, you realize how many rainforests you killed? Oh shit. Okay. No. So right here, I got this volume 1. I saw this and I was like at a used bookstore for like $15, and I was like, holy shit, this looks important. It is a
I know that book.
Neil Adams volume 1, just a bunch of best of Neil Adams books. And I was like, Neil Adams, he is a fantastic artist. And I opened the book, and this is like, I look at the time stamps on here, and I'm like, oh, this is like the writer. So it's not all Neil Adams. It's not all Denny O'Neil though. I didn't see any Denny O'Neil in there. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm reading through it like, oh boy, this is really fucking tough to get through, because it's like that 60s era Batman, like 60s and 70s. Like I think there might be some 70s, maybe it's all 60s, but there's a lot of that like early DC shit where they were definitely writing it for kids, you know. And it's 68. Let's see, the oldest one in here is like 69. So it was before the 70s, before Denny O'Neil got on. So a lot of it's that kind of like wise iota whenever there's like grunts or like goons talking. It's just like very, very hokey, very cheesy, and very like, come on, old chum, kind of like Batman. And I'm like, I'm really slogging through this fucking thing. It's taken me a minute to get through it, because it's just like,
sometimes those books,
they're good art books. That's what they are.
Well, that, and sometimes you just gotta be in the right mood for sometimes like old school stuff like that, you know, because there's some of those ones. It's like I can read 60s books. Like I like the Stan Lee books from the 60s. You know, you read the original Fantastic Four, the original Spider-Man. Like I always dig that kind of stuff, you know. And realistically, Traveling Heroes is 68 to like 72, so that's one of my favorite like books, you know. Not saying every single one in that, because that was kind of like a mixed match of different stories, but like, you know, when it's good, it's good.
That one's hokey, but it still is. There's a lot of like groundbreaking things in that book, and there's a lot of like more going on. Like that book's important. Like there are some parts that are really cheesy, and there's some parts that are very like, especially when like Green Arrow is like dressed up like a Native American, and he's like, "Die, white devil," or whatever, you know. At the exact same time, like it's like
so stereotypical white knighting right there.
Yeah, exactly. But like at the same time, it's like should we tell him? Like don't tell him. Don't tell him. He thinks he's an ally. Just let him do it. There'll be more effort. Yeah, sure, Ollie. Whoa, down with the white man. Sure, yeah, but he's white. Don't fucking tell him that.
Yeah,
you realize how much of his resources we can use? Shut the fuck up. That's a really good book series, and I do think some of the stuff is cheesy. I actually kind of prefer more of the stuff when they're grounded and on. I mean, you know, I had one of the covers behind me for a while, like a printout of one of the covers behind me in the background for a while. But the heroine one was speedy, all hunched over, you know, like even that's kind of melodramatic. But that was like a lot of comics weren't doing that at the time, and the introduction of John Stewart, and then the thing of like, you know, you've done a lot for the Green Man, you've done a lot for the Purple Man, but what have you done for the Black Man? Like I think that's all like that was all very important stuff that a lot of comics weren't doing at the time. So I think that like you can overlook some of the campiness and some of the cheesiness, especially since the story's more entertaining, is more has something to say, you know. But this thing right here, it's all just kind of like, oh, use mugs, we're gonna rob this bank. Oh, here comes Superman and Batman. Oh, we gotta stop. Oh, they beat us, you know. And the artwork's fantastic, but it's just a lot of like silly bullshit, really. At the end of the day, it's one of those things like if you're like, when you have like those documentaries and people are talking about like, you know what, no one ever took comic books seriously, but really it is like such an epic art form. It is so important, the things we're trying to say in comics, and you're like, fuck yeah. And then someone goes and grabs this fucking book and you're like, yeah, I don't know, man. You know, like you're thinking like year one, you're thinking like Wonder Woman Dead Earth, you're thinking of like, you know, something like, you know, the introduction of Static or something like that. And then you just like, you come across like, no, we're coming across this shit here. So.
Well, yeah, I think it's just like it's give or take on like that kind of era and so on like that. One thing I do notice a lot of those that section of time, like pretty much like 60s to like 80s comics, sometimes even early 90s, get like this, is that like some books get like almost like way too wordy. And I always wondered, like, my theory on it was that, like, you know, there used to always be that stereotype thing that, like, oh, he's reading comic books, he must be retarded. You know what I mean? He's just looking at the fucking pictures. And, like, I always kind of wondered if there's that thing where they're like, you know what? People think that comic books are for idiots. Well, put, like, more words in there and make it feel more like a novel. You know what I mean? Like, just narrate everything. Batman walks in the room, he should have an inner monologue that is bigger than the actual panel of artwork.
Well, there's also the whole, like, you know, everyone's the philosophy, every comic book is someone's first comic. So the idea of like every time he walks in a room, like, no, they know he was Playboy billionaire Bruce Wayne, you know, so they got to fit that in every time and repeat information every time, you know. So
well, that's like, mostly only at the beginning of the book. I'm talking about like just like every panel, like, yeah. I'll say an example too is Chris Claremont's always kind of like that. Like those X-Men 70s and 80s comic books are like, they definitely, like, everybody has to get in there like full couple paragraphs each.
David Mamet speech, yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, it's one of those ones where, like, sometimes it's like one of those ones like, okay, you could tone this back a little bit more, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like, so it's like one of those ones like, what job did you think you were getting? Were you planning on writing a novel, or were you planning on writing a comic book here?
I feel like, I don't know, I can't speak on Chris Claremont, but a lot of times you hear about old comic book writers, and you hear like people from like, say like 70s and 80s and onward, like, oh, I loved comics. But a lot of times you hear, and I know Claremont was mostly 70s, but at the same time you hear a lot of people just like,
he's all the way up to 90s. Chris Claremont is pretty much every X-Men book from 76 to like 94 is pretty much him.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the idea of like, I don't really know if he went into comic books or if he was just like, it's just a job I can get, sure, I'll write this shit. Like, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this, because, you know, I think Stan Lee didn't go in with like a love of comics. It was just a job for him, and you hear that with, I can't think of any names off the top of my head, but you hear that a lot. So
yeah,
you know, but like, you know, he also makes you feel like, man, people must have been really fucking shitty back in '73, you know, because Stan Lee's like, you know, I'd be at a party and I'd say like, what do you do? Well, I write comic books. And then they just walk away from me mid-sentence like, oh my God, you write comic books. You are the scum of the earth. I hope you fucking die. Like, he's like, Jesus, people really
just rips a gnarly ass fart and fucking leaves.
It was the Cold War. We were all very tense.
Yeah, well, there is that kind of thing. Well, because I think that was the thing, is everybody's kind of afraid to like sort of say, like, it probably was about by the 80s is when it started to become like becoming a little bit more hip to be like in the comics and so on.
Well, between between Sandman, Watchmen, what Frank Miller was doing on Daredevil, all that. Yeah,
all that kind of stuff, you know, but you know, that's sometimes the only thing that can like kind of like when comic books get like too wordy. It sounds weird, but it's like if it's like almost like too much like reading in there, it seems like it kind of just kills the flow. And I'll say some mangas do the same thing too. Like fucking people are just in there talking for days. You're like, whoa, pump the fucking brakes on your dialogue here. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like manga is either like very to the point or very kind of like very wordy with it, you know, one or the other. I mean, sometimes I feel like they have the extra dialogue and like a battle scene just to get like that. Like reading more manga recently, I'm like, oh, like when you watch an anime, you're like the over narration explaining what's happening in front of you. Like, I have fucking eyes. You don't need to fucking spell it out for me. But then like in a manga, I'm like, oh, I kind of get it a little more. You know what I mean? Because you know, like, oh, so that's how his strategy worked and blah blah blah, whatever. You know, where
it's just inner monologue.
And then I start having to like to find moments to do that in my own story. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to try and make this too Yu-Gi-Oh-ish or too like, you know, too like, I'm going to hold your hand entirely. But at the same time, I'm going like, oh, I guess I got to lay out some groundwork here. So yeah, explanation. Here we are.
Yeah, there's just like that fine balance about having like explain everything you need to, but you don't need to go into like people that got like way too much fucking like long inner monologues and so on like that. And generally there's just like a section of time, and I literally do think my theory is that they thought they're like, you know what, kids need to like get a better education here, so put more words in there. Like make sure the word count is this amount every single issue. Like I almost think that there was a period where that was kind of like what they were shooting for. Because if you read 40s and 50s comic books, you don't see that as much. Or even 30s comic books. It's like it kind of happens like maybe late 50s, 60s, 70s that the books start to get really wordy.
I can kind of see that. Yeah, I mean, with the comics code shit going on, like if there's more words in here, then they can't say that we're just trying to like make kids into like serial killers and rapists or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? So
yeah, that's what they do when they look at pictures.
Well, I guess that's also, that any generation comes, they don't know what this thing is. I mean, they gotta start blaming it, like The Seduction of the Innocent. That book was written by that total fucking quack, and he had totally bad science, and people just like totally took his word for it and everything. But like at the same time, like, he was just a grifter at the end of the day. But like at the same time, what was I gonna say about that? That book, or not that book entirely. Oh yeah, like you kind of look at some like cartoons from the 70s, like Super Friends, or even was that 70s or 60s?
Super Friends is 70s.
Yeah, like you look at let's do like an educational show. We gotta throw in fucking Wendy, Marvin, and the fucking dog, and there's a part like, okay, kids, let's all go to the special, like let's all go to the secret base. Okay, we'll ride there safely on our bicycles with helmets. Like, okay, so it's like some shit. Like, okay, we gotta make sure that we don't lose the kids to the communists. Like, this is gonna help, But at the same time,
gotta have that PSA message.
Like, because they were more like educational shows, and every so often Superman and Batman would come in like, hey, stop fucking with that melt ray. Like, oh, okay, you're right, I shouldn't do that. Like, no, you should beat the fuck out of them is what you should do. But that never really happened, at least not that first version of it. But then like there's somewhere I was going with this. I want to say like, yeah, because it was eventually everyone just started saying, fuck the comic code, because of like they're saying like, hey, you shouldn't do drugs, kids. Yeah, well, drugs can't be in comics. Well, fuck you. We're just, like they start losing their power after a while,
Well, it's like heavy metal. I always think of that one too. It's like they're like, well, we're gonna do whatever we want. They're like, well, yeah, there's a comics code. Like, well, we're a magazine. Oh, well, fuck. They got around that. They made the margins an extra 1.5 inches wider, and shit, they found a loophole around this.
Mass suicides that day at the Comics Code. all doing seppuku.
Yeah, it's like, how they're a magazine? What? Yeah, like one of those ones. But yeah, just the different like styles of like those older comics and so on, and what they go through in the comic code and all that stuff there. But yeah, like a lot of times, for me nowadays, especially when I'm reading books, is I do a lot of them off of like I use that Comixology Unlimited, which like I feel like very few people seem to have, but like for only $5.99 a month, I can read all these kind of books I want. I just go through a bunch of series. Like I was going through like the Ninja Turtles, like the IDW stuff. They had another Last Ronin like kind of prequel story that was there that was pretty solid. I enjoyed that a bit. And then just the IDW ones itself are kind of cool. They got Kevin Eastman. It kind of writes the majority of them. And they a little bit of an alternative kind of new timeline for the Turtles and whatnot. They do some stuff that like tries to catch things up a little too fast. Like the Turtles are fucking like adults in like 3 months or something like that. It's like, what the fuck? But I feel like it's just one of those ones like just get them going. Like whatever. You know what I mean? Like they got fucking ooze in them. They learn super rapidly. Well,
I feel like sometimes there's that thing of like we want to get new ideas. It's ideas we only get through a reboot, but at the same time, we don't want to make you read all the same shit all over again. So let's just cut some of the fat and just get to the meat of it all.
Yeah, and that's sort of how these ones kind of feels like that. They are sort of doing the speed up, catch up thing there. There's some stuff that kind of like like you've seen it before in other Turtles things, but yeah, it's that weird one though of comics that I've really got that point too where. And it goes with a lot of things too. It's like there is always newer stuff coming out, but like sometimes like you can almost stop at this point and be like, if I just reread everything that I kind of enjoyed from the past and so on like that again, and all the books I kind of missed, that probably will cover me till the day I die. Like, I hate to sort of say, it's the same thing with movies. I'm like, I could probably stop right here and just spend the time just rewatching everything that I already do like, / watching all the movies that I kind of missed, and that probably would take me to the very end too.
You could, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, you know what? There's so much stuff I do want to see that's still coming out, or it kind of gives and takes. There's some stuff where I'm like, I liked it, but one read's enough. There are those comics where you read them, and it's just like, I have it. It's on the shelf, but really, it's just volume 4 out of this run. That's what it is to me. It's volume 4. I can move on to whatever. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you get like, there's like a run you're collecting. And you like the run for the most part, but whatever, this one here, it's just kind of there, that couple of like issues, and nothing really that special about it stands out, but you already have this many of them, so it's there. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to rereading stuff, I don't always feel the need to go back and reread every arc or everything. Some books are there just because it's probably more effort for me to package it up and sell it on eBay, really. You know what I mean? And if I sell it at a garage sale, I'm kind of like, I feel like I can get more for this. This is kind of like a dude, and if you don't kind of thing. So I'm like, I might as well just have it part of this library, and when one day I'll say to my son, like, this is all yours. I'll be like, oh, cool. Like, I don't give a shit, and just burn it. That is what it is. He needs a Kindle. He needs kindling after the next World War or something,
Yeah, exactly. But well, no, it's more like those ones. I'm not talking about just rereading anything. I'm just talking about like there's enough just like great material out there that like can a lot of times just occupy the time. It's the same way I feel about with movies, video games, all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying I look forward to new things, but like it's that one that like I feel like the older you kind of get, you do get to the point where you're like you got to be a little bit picky and choosy. Like you only have so much time. It sounds weird, but like you start to think of it like at this point where you're like, okay, we're like when we were younger and you'd watch a bunch of junk film, you're like, I'm getting educated. Yeah. I feel nowadays I don't need to do that anymore. Like, no. Time is too precious as to be watching junk film just to think you're getting educated on what to not do or what to maybe steal.
Well, it's interesting because I'm looking forward to the 3rd Sonic movie. I'm like, the 3rd Sonic movie. Wow, I'm super excited for it. I'm like, Gladiator 2. Like, I've seen the first one. So it's like, it's kind of like Gladiator, the sequel to like this beloved like classic, this movie that got Best Picture and all these other things, and people still quote it to this day. I'm like, why so soon? I'll check it out on streaming, I guess. I don't know. It takes a lot for me to want to get to go over to the theater to want to see something specifically. Before it'd be like, let's see what this is about. But now I'm like, me going to the movie theater, like even before my kid was here, it took me like, I had to plan my day. I had to plan like in San Francisco, I was like right by 2 theaters and I could just walk over to one or the other and see whatever. And that was probably when I saw a lot of experimental movies and weird movies and all that. And whatever came out. But now I'm like, past that though, I'm like, man, there's this movie which looks kind of interesting, but at the same time, I heard it's not that great. Do I really want to spend my day going out of my way to see it, or can I just wait for this shit to come to streaming and then decide like that? So even movies, I know what you mean about being picky and choosy, because there's some stuff I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to spend my one day off this week seeing this movie. I'm like, yeah, unless it's something I really want to see, Yeah,
that's exactly kind of how I feel. There's some movies where it's just like, yeah. Because I've come to a calculation that generally I only have enough time in the entire week to see about 3 to 4 movies. And that mostly always includes one in cinemas or something like that, even though cinema's been kind of weak recently, but other than just recently because you got a couple ones out now. But so it's like one of those ones by that calculation. It's not like you can't just free watch anything. It's like one of those ones. Sometimes people will tell me like, oh, you should check out this or that. It's like the TV show or something like, that's just going to eat up my movie time. Like, I mean, like, well, let's be honest. There's not enough time to be like, I don't. If there's a show out there that's like, oh, it doesn't get good till like the 2nd season, like that is a waste of my time.
Yeah, I can't do that. Maybe you can tell me it gets better in season 2, but to say it doesn't get good until season 2, I'm like, no, sorry.
No. As I said, I feel like that's the only thing is you just got to have like that dial. It's like even like a video game too. I feel like there used to be a time where it's like I should just finish this because I bought it. Be like, dude, if you're not really feeling it, go on to something you truly want to play. Like don't.
Sonic 06, exactly. Like that was me.
Yeah,
on
well,
Sonic 06.
I did play all the way through that one because I just felt like I needed to. and it was a struggle, but in many different ways. And I'm actually, strangely enough, I'm actually kind of proud to like finish that game. Like, that to me felt like that was like, well, that's like accomplishment. That was like, some people think that beating Dark Souls is an accomplishment. I think beating Sonic 06 is something special.
You just get like the Xbox achievement, like, hey, you did it, and then you like a second one, like, wow, you actually did it. Okay, good for you. There's gonna ellipses in there.
Man, I wish there was achievements on there. That game's too old to have achievements, sadly.
Oh yeah, maybe, but like, but no, like, yeah, I'm a lot more picky and choosy and stuff. Like, I really wanted to see that movie, The Substance, but then I'm like, it's 2 hours and 25 minutes, and that's a big chunk of my day. And not saying that everything I got to do is more important than that, but that's one I'm like, maybe I'll wait for streaming on that shit. Plus, it's kind of a hard movie to sell, like, to your wife. Like, okay, so apparently half the movie, Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore are naked, and then it's a bunch of body horror. So it's like it's kind of a hard movie to like pitch, So, but like I'm gonna wait for that one on streaming. But like I like yeah. If I see a movie that's 90 minutes, like I'm not one of these people who can't handle a 3-hour movie. I mean, I like a lot of long movies, but go out of your way for a 3-hour movie, though. That's the thing,
Yeah, well, that's always my thing. It's like I don't mind a long movie, but like when it's like, oh, it's a long movie, and the first show time's at 9:00 at night, I'm like, well, never mind.
Yeah,
it's like one of those ones. It's like I'm not opposed to staying up late, like because that's one thing a lot of people always go like, oh man, getting older, can't stay up late. It's like, no, it's the same as it always has been. It's just that when you were younger, you most likely had like a job that was either later in the day, so like you woke up at like fucking 9:00 in the morning instead of waking up at like 5. That's the difference. That's the reason why you can't stay up late. It's just like you just used to work on a different like time schedule,
Exactly.
So
exactly.
But yeah,
That's
no.
probably...
At least the upside is there's some good stuff coming out in the cinemas finally after a couple of months, or at least some interesting things. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog is the thing I'm looking most forward to over everything else. But
same thing. I'm looking at my list. I don't know if it's going to be the top of my list, but I could say I'm probably looking forward to the most. And I'm not dying to see this other one, but I'd like to see it just because I'm like, maybe this will make other things happen. Like, it's so weird. Of all the things that get made and not get made, we'll end here in just a minute, but like the things that get made don't get made, and then like go to theaters, don't go to theaters. An anime Lord of the Rings movie is coming out, and it's not even about like Bilbo or Aragorn. It's about like that town with the wall, like the city with the wall, or whatever, Roham or whatever the fuck. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you're making a movie about those people, and it's an anime movie, and it's going to theaters. Like, this sounds like the things like this would have been like the straight to DVD, like 45-minute movie that would have came out like around the time Two Towers is about to come out, But
yeah, exactly.
But it's coming to
like
theaters.
That Chronicles of Riddick like animated.
Yeah, Animatrix or the Van Helsing thing or something, So it's kind of like, the animation looks beautiful. Like I'm not like a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Like I like Lord of the Rings. I'm not like a diehard fan of it. And especially for like, oh, these people over here who like aren't. I don't even. I just remember there's the guy who was like
the Build a Wall Society.
Yeah, exactly. Make Middle Earth great again, guys. They whatever they were.
Like, we got to build a wall to keep these out, to keep everybody else out.
Yeah. Ooh, this didn't age well. Yeah. No, but like I want to I kind of want to see, just because it's an anime movie and it's not like something being thrown out by not Crunchyroll, but like Funimation or so. It's like, it's not getting like, oh, it's out for 10 days or it's out for a week. Like
it's given the legitimate treatment.
Some kind of like, I mean, it's an anime movie going to theaters. It's not like a My Hero Academia or Dragon Ball movie. And I love Dragon Ball. Don't get me wrong. It's kind of like, all right, let's see. Yeah, it's attached to a giant IP, but I honestly think this could be like a real prove yourself kind of moment kind of thing for it. And I hope it's good, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you there too. I think this is actually kind of a groundbreaking moment that says like, oh shit, this might make the anime seem kind of legitimate for a lot more things, or just animation in general. So no, I'm looking really forward to that one as too. I think that's kind of one of the big movies. That one, Sonic. As I said, I'll see Gladiator and so on like that. Just because I get my use out of my Regal Pass. I felt like I haven't got my money's use out of that in the last couple of months. It seemed like a movie here and there, But yeah, so good stuff in store, and then in December will be our catch-up month for whatever movies we've been missing, so we can get to our 2024 list and see what it all turns out to be like, because it's definitely going to be one of those ones, it's just like all the last couple of years, there's going to be one of those ones where it's like, yeah, this list was kind of stitched together by just what I saw, not necessarily like, top 10 movies in a sense. It's just be like, well, there was a place, and it was good enough, so here it is, Take it or leave it. So
pretty much, that's where I'm at.
But, we'll all let you get going there. But till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.